Welcome back, everyone. Joining us now is the one and only Dwayne Sims, founder of the Negro League Legends Hall of Fame. And we're having some fun here with Dwayne.
Oh, yes.
Dwayne, this is April.
Yes,
and
it is.
Always time to celebrate the Jackie Robinson Day, April 15th. And you were
April
saying that's an
15th.
interesting date
That's
for it to
correct.
be.
That is
But that
correct.
was the date that he came into Major League Baseball, April 15th, 1947.
And everybody's still going to remember I had to pay my taxes.
Right.
But this year's the 18th, so they
right.
updated now, and I can really celebrate Jackie's legacy.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So we're going to talk a little more about the Jackie Robinson documentary a little bit later. But first, in the spirit of Jackie, we talked to Eduardo Perez, and he is the son of Tony Perez, the big Hall of Famer from Cincinnati. And he's also an ESPN baseball analyst. And we talked to him about the game, the historic game that was played in Cuba last month, and the lack of Latin and Black American players, who are managers in the major leagues. So let's take a listen to some of the things that he had to say about that game in Cuba and about black managers. With President Obama and that great game, talk about that game that, I guess, what was it, about a month ago, huh?
Yeah, it was about a month, well, a little under a month ago. It was on the 22nd of March, and, it was surreal. I have to give a lot of credit to ESPN and Major League Baseball for being able to have this event. I was able to sit next to the president for 15 minutes alongside with Carl Ravitch and Doug Glanville, and we were able to talk about different things. Unfortunately, that day also the Brussels incident had happened, so it took away a little bit from the game itself, and we had to address that. We were the first ones to interview the president after that, and we ended up getting a real, I think, balanced interview between what's going on in the real world, but at the same time, what's going on when it comes to the game of baseball, to the politics, to Cuba. What we all know, what we all want is we want a free Cuba. We want a better Cuba, and we want people to be free. We want people to be able to express their opinions, and we want freedom of press. And there, we had it. Surreal that you're interviewing the president of the United States, the leader of the free world, in an island that's not free. And I think that, accompanied with everything that my grandfather, which passed away in 2006, he always explained everything and taught me about Cuba, how important Cuba is to the family, how important Cuba is to the world in his eyes. Rest in peace. And I was able now to sit with the president there. Very emotional, very surreal, but at the same time, I was able to see my family, and to me, it was a chance of a lifetime to be there.
And baseball brought that day together.
Exactly, and I was nervous before he was coming. Stu Sternberg, the owner of the Rays, put the jersey Obama 44 next to my seat. I'm going, okay, this is really happening. And my heart started beating, and then I just realized, I took a deep breath and I said, wait a second, he should be the one that's nervous, because we're actually in a baseball field and this is my home. This is where I feel comfortable. So that being said, I asked him, I thought was an important question about how do you give families hope that are in Cuba, and especially, regarding my family. And at the same time, I needed to let him know that he needs to work on his first pitch, because oh my, I don't know if you guys saw that at home, but take a look at it on YouTube. He never played a lot of baseball.
No, he did not.
He's a good hoops, though.
He's a lefty, too.
He's
I'm
a good
lefty.
hoops, yeah.
I'm like, no.
No. We got to work on that. A little extra throwing on the side.
All right, one more thing, Eduardo. You've done some managing, some coaching.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about there not a lot of Latin
You're right.
managers or Black American managers. Talk about that, and what about you?
Well,
Becoming a manager.
Well, it's I love it. I'll be honest with you. I've done it in winter ball. I've done it internationally. I've done it representing Puerto Rico the best to my ability. And I think, managed 3 years in Puerto Rico, won 2 championships in winter ball, coached at the big league level. Now, doing broadcasting, it is what it is. You pay your dues. I think there's different ways of paying dues. At the end of the day, this game has become analytical, and there's a misconception. And I want to be very adamant about this, a misconception that African-American coaches or ex-players, same way as Latino players and minorities in general, don't really understand the part of the analytical work, and that is a lot of ignorance going on in the front offices. We were college educated. I'll give you an example. Joey Cora has coached for many years with the White Sox and with the Marlins, is now in the Pirates organization. He went to Vanderbilt University. His major was in math. I mean, and you're not giving him an opportunity. You're not giving men an opportunity to learn what the analytical part about the game is. I mean, we're brilliant people that all we want is an opportunity. We know we can not only translate the analytical work, but we know how to communicate well. I think it's not only about being bilingual as far as the Latin are concerned, it's more also about being multicultural. Just because you speak the language doesn't mean you understand where that person has come from. So I think it's a matter of educating themselves. Front offices trying to feel comfortable knowing that I'm a general manager and I just have 4 years at the helm. I want to hire a person I feel comfortable with. I think it's not about being comfortable. I think it's actually being uncomfortable actually creates a better dynamic within the clubhouse and will actually teach you something. We can be here for a long time with that, but there are a lot of people that are qualified to do this job and do it well. It's a matter of them being able to accept that, listen, you don't have to go to Harvard, or you don't have to be a Michigan grad or Notre Dame grad or Stanford grad to be qualified to be a manager.
All right, there he is, Eduardo Perez, and that's just a little of what we talked about. We're going to have some more of him on our next show. But talk about that Cuban game.
I just got excited by listening to him talk about it. And it's interesting how now that we have the modern day media and technology, we don't miss anything now that's happening. But can you imagine, I can take you back to 1903, before the Negro League was the Colored Professional League. We were called colored people, and the Cuban teams would come here and visit America. The colored teams, even up to the Negro League, would go to Cuba to play, also to Canada. It's interesting how international that, these are our diplomats. You would think about it, and because sports and music are really based on the language for everybody. You don't have to understand the language. Most of the Cuban players that actually played during that time and also played in the Negro League, they'd never learned English, okay?
Right.
So that's interesting. I met one of the Negro League players later on, maybe about 10 years ago, and he still did not speak English, but he understood the game of baseball.
That's English.
Go
Interesting.
ahead.
You remember we met the guy who was the first Japanese player who played in the majors.
Yes.
And Jimmy played in Japan for
Right,
2 years
right,
himself.
right.
But when you talked to him, you had to talk to his interpreter. He
Right.
had played here in the majors, but he still
And
can't
still
speak
speak the
English.
common language, right,
But
right, right.
that's interesting
Right.
that you bring that up. But let's talk a little bit about the we got maybe a minute to talk about the manager situation. There are only 2 Black American managers,
Right.
and that's Dave Roberts with the Dodgers and Dusty Baker here in Washington. Is there anything that can be done, Jimmy? We got a few seconds to talk about that.
Anything that can be done about getting the managers? They just got to continue to work hard. They just got to continue to work hard and wherever they are, and just hope they get a break. You got to put in the work, and somebody's got to like you, just like as a ball player. Somebody's got to like you and want you. So I mean, it's not over with. I think I think it's going to evolve around, and it's going to be there.
And get more Black and Latin.
Right.
Well, we got a lot of Latin players in baseball, but just get more Black American.
I want to
guys
add
in
one thing is
baseball.
just like during the Negro League days that there were Black owners of the team. People don't talk about that. Even a female owner of the
they
New York
were.
Eagles.
Exactly.
So until we start, have ownership, you don't have to be, you can be any color of the rainbow. It's the opportunity. All we need is just the opportunity, and I think that's cross-board in anything. Give the opportunity.
Right.
And
there's a guy who is now running the Miami Marlins,
Okay.
Michael Hill. He is the president of baseball operations for the Miami,
right.
and he is a Black American.
Right.
He went to Harvard, played shortstop there.
Wow.
So it can be done.
Right.
He actually has told me he will do an interview with us later in the season when
great,
Miami
great,
comes
great,
back. I got to meet him. And it was just amazing meeting this guy. There's only one other black person running a baseball team here in America, and that is McKinney with the Chicago White Sox.
Wow.
So you all, viewers, you're going to find out a lot more about what's going on in baseball, that there are some African Americans and Latin American guys that are running teams. Let's talk about Jackie Robinson documentary. We got a minute to talk about that.
Fantastic. I think Ken Burns, still again, he tells our stories, you know what I mean? And what is interesting about this Jackie Robinson story, like anybody, you got to the human being, which means that he was not only an athlete, he played different sports, but he sacrificed, the sacrifices people do in their lifetime to give back. And I think, we talk about Paul Robeson at that time, always somebody was a negative but a positive, but that's part of life. And I think we just need to have more feature of that mindset that, okay, it's not always about the baseball, it's about a family man. He got spit on, he got kicked around. I mean, he dealt with situations that most of us can't deal with right now today.
So how can people see that? It's on right now on PBS,
on
right?
PBS, your local PBS station.
For the next few weeks, probably.
WETA 26 has been running here locally in the nation's capital, even though we see you all over the country. But I'm just saying, since we're here in the nation's capital right now. Yes.
Okay, and let's talk about your events. We got a few seconds.
Talk
about your events.
We're going to talk about the main one.
Coming up.
July 30th, we're going back to that Bay Sox Stadium. We bring in the Negro League ball players, and you know what? And they need to come and watch your show so they get your free tickets.
Right, exactly.
And Jimmy, my man, I'm so glad to see that. I get educated. Every time I come on the show, it's something to learn. And it's about American baseball history. I want to be clear. American baseball history.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for joining us, guys. It's been great having you here. Good work. And you got to come back again, too, later on in the season.
Yeah, I'll come back with you.
Thanks, Jimmy. Jimmy's an awesome guy.
I'm sure he's got a lot.
He knows some baseball.
Jimmy, I don't mind having a partner.